The problem we're having is that the engine vacuum is low when you accelerate, and it's high when you're not accelerating. And so the dampers in the air conditioner operate off of vacuum. So anytime you accelerate, we're losing vacuum, and the dampers are closing, and it's going to heat or defrost. We're trying to correct that by replacing the vacuum check valve and the canister, which there's a diagram here that shows you how that is supposed to work. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to disconnect the vacuum hose that currently goes to a check valve and a reservoir that's buried under the dash. We're going to replace that and put them in a more accessible spot in front of all that stuff, just under the dash, which is easier to get to. And we're going to reroute that vacuum hose that comes from the engine, put in a new check valve with the new canister, just like the diagram shows, and then tie that back into the line that goes to the dampers. Okay, so this first picture shows the vacuum line that's coming from the engine, and then it's a red tube, and then it has a connector, and then it goes to a black tube. We're going to split it between disconnect it between the red and the black tube, and then from that connector off the red tube, we're going to send it down through the engine bay and then into under the dash.
Yeah, you need to disconnect this line. I'm going to pull it apart here. Right there. So we're going to take this line, hook onto it, turn it around, and go back alongside the engine, and we're going to come out and poke a hole into under the dash. And this one here, you just tape it off for now, or just get it out of the way. You won't have to touch with that, but just save it in case this thing doesn't work. You can hook it back together again.
Okay, this picture just shows. It shows a couple things. One, it shows where the vacuum line originates from the engine. That's the red one. But we don't attach anything to that. I'm just showing you that so you'll understand. That's where that red line that's when you're under the hood, that's where it's coming from. And then the other picture, or the other arrow, is where we're actually going to penetrate the engine housing in order to get the line to go into the under the dash.
And then, so you're going to have to come through in here with that line that I showed you from up front, and it'll come out here in under the dash, and that's where we're going to put the T.
Now, this picture shows what you're going to see under the dash on the right-hand side. You open the right-hand door, and then right along there, if you look up under the dash, you'll see a damper, and then you'll see another hose that goes back into a grommet. The one's white that goes to the damper. The black one is the one that we're going to actually use. And we're going to disconnect it from the part that goes to the grommet, and we're going to use the part that goes up towards the heater controllers, and that's the line you're going to use to hook up.
And the T will be drawing vacuum back, but it'll also tie into the black line that's right, where's that line? It's this one here. It'll tie right back into this black line right here. And that'll be one part of the T. The other part of the T will go to the canister that you're going to have to make. You'll make that out of PVC. We can show you a picture of it so you'll know how to do that.
Okay, so this is a picture of the vacuum canister or vacuum reservoir that you're going to have to make out of PVC. Now, it's all it is just a canister. It's a reservoir that you seal up well so that it won't leak, and then the one line attaches to it. And you're going to have to figure out, about how big it'll fit on the dash. I'd say probably around 4 to 6 inches long, maybe a 2-inch PVC, like a T like that would work fine. Okay, so to summarize what this all means, we've got this vacuum that's coming from the engine. That's the red line. It goes through the check valve, and then as long as there's a vacuum pulling on it, it's going to pull vacuum from the dampers, and it's also pulling a vacuum in that reservoir. If the vacuum becomes low, the check valve checks, and you still have a supply of vacuum that's in the line and in the canister, and that's why it stays in the cooling mode and not in the heat when you're accelerating. All right, these next two pictures are just they're the two parts you can get. They're actual Ford part numbers for the check valve and for the reservoir. This is the factory parts. There are some aftermarket ones that you can use. You can use an aftermarket check valve, and you can make your own reservoir just out of PVC, which is the other alternative. Okay, so the other thing you're going to need in order to complete this project, you're going to need to go out and get some connectors in order to be able to attach the vacuum hoses and a length of vacuum line, and then maybe a grommet or some way to seal it, and so it won't cut as it's going through from the engine bay into the under the dash. But just that's all you need. Just a few hardware items. Get an auto parts or hardware store, and hook the whole thing all up.